Hello, and welcome to another episode of Dave Trippin'. The question that I got in the most recent email, really simple, and one that I have some experience with, so I feel equipped to answer it well, was, is working for Interac as a company that you would come over and teach English for worth it? Is this the company that you want to work for when you come to Japan? Now, I would say that it falls into a couple of different categories, but the easiest of which that'll, for so many people, will make this an easy, simple question to answer is the amount of time that you intend to be here for. So basically, if you intend to be here for 1 year, then Interac is fantastic. It's really, really good. And a lot of the things that you might be concerned about that you hear aren't quite so good about Interac don't really matter. Like, one of the things that I have an issue with is the whole healthcare thing with Interac, that they bill you out as a part-time employee when in reality you work a full 40 hours a week, sometimes more during speech contest periods of time when you're kind of like volunteering your time and you're not given overtime. And yet, even though you are considered a full-time employee by that work standard, by working 40 hours a week because you sign up only as 29.5, they don't help with health care. But the thing is, if you're here for 1 year, then your healthcare costs are based on your previous year's income. And if you've only been in Japan for no time at all and you're just starting out, then there is no record of you in the country, of course. And so your healthcare bills are really, really small. And you can get in, you can get registered with healthcare. If you were to get sick, there's no problem. You're going to have this card called your Hokensho, and you'll be able to go to the hospital and get treatment and benefit from the fact that they have this system that actually aids people, similar to Canada, similar to a number of different countries that have a healthcare system built into the taxation system. So you don't need to worry about that being an issue. As well, you might hear that Interac doesn't pay the highest pay bracket. When you first arrive, something that you have working for you is that, just like for the reason that you don't really have to worry about the healthcare costs being that high, you don't need to worry about your taxes being that high. And so saving in your first year with Interac is really not that hard. You can do it pretty easily. I did, certainly. My first year was very, very easy to save with them. Granted, I lived in the countryside and I didn't party so much, but I even think that somebody with some amount of social life, not having to pay that much taxes, not having to worry that much about healthcare, would be able to save. Really, really good. Now, you're thinking, okay, so that's if you're here for a year, but I want to stay for longer than a year. Well, then in that case, my advice would definitely change, and I would look far more carefully at what kind of job you would take when you get here. Interac remains a great choice for getting into the country and getting a work visa. That will always remain true, because a lot of these higher paying jobs, ones that would get you around, say, 270,000 to over 300,000, and also assist with payment of your health care and pay into your pension and pay into the pension which you can collect when you leave, those jobs you usually need to already be in the country to get in with, unless you're working with JET. And JET is a real, congratulations to people who get into JET, but JET is a really, really, really challenging program to get into, and it's the select few that do. More power to them, good for you. You made it through that because you worked really hard and you deserve it. So all the more power to you, like I say. But for the vast majority of other people who would like to come over here, that's not necessarily an option. And so they can't jump into that job from outside of the country so easily. And that's especially why I think that companies like Aeon, Nova, ECC, all these bigger dispatch companies have their place. And I mentioned this in a video a while back, in A, for people who come over here for the 1 year, for all the reasons I mentioned about taxation and the way that that all works out. And B, because they are recruiting internationally, where these higher paying jobs are usually recruiting internally from the country. So that is the use. Now, if you do stay in the country for more than a year, I recommend that if you're working for a company like Altia, like Interac, like many of these ones that I just listed, big long list right there. If you're going to stay in the country for a longer period of time than that, The best thing to do is at about 6 months, I would say, because then it allows you to transition and plan and kind of anticipate what your next move will be, is to go on to the kind of popular forums, places that would allow you to look for jobs, Gaijin Pots, Ohio Sensei, and see what you have available to you there, and start to plan, start to look at what's out there. It's beneficial for so many reasons, especially because you start to get a sense of what is out there, because before you have a sense of scale of what like the different job offers are, what the pay scale is, what the benefits are, it's difficult to judge exactly what you should do. Not only that, it would allow you to kind of, if you do get a few job offers, which you would be very likely to do, like I've mentioned in another video, it's kind of the biggest prerequisite is that you're here in the country, obviously accumulating experience. But then, yeah, you're looking for these jobs, you're planning ahead of time, and you can find yourself something really good. Also, don't be fooled. One of the biggest bullshit things that I didn't like about Interac, which I understand, but I don't like because it's really misleading, is that you shouldn't speak to the school about any of your plans regarding what might happen in the future. When I finished at my last school, I'd been there for some time, and I looked for what is a really appealing job to get when you're here if you want to continue to do the teaching thing, is a direct hire position. Then that meant, well, when I left, okay, tell the story cohesively here. I got a direct hire position, but by me looking around for them, and I told that school, Interac was like, no, don't tell them, because Interac wants to cover their ass because they're afraid that some school might have a negative reaction to you leaving, and that might reflect poorly on them, and then they won't be able to renew their contract. But all the while, if you think about it for 2 seconds, if you leave without having a conversation at the end of your work term with your school about what you're going to do in the following year, it makes you look like an asshole, because they're like, oh, he really didn't care about us at all. He didn't even have the common courtesy, or not so common, I guess, to tell us that he was deciding to leave or deciding to take on a new job. This does lead to a point, believe me. So basically, at the end, when I told my school a little bit ahead of time, but I'd already gotten the job at this point, in time, but it was with enough time that I could still tell them, they were really, really happy for me. They're like, oh, we've enjoyed having you at the school, the kids really liked you, and we're so happy that you get to continue being in Japan. That's a really positive thing. And the Kyoto sensei, the vice principal, said to me, again, that's fantastic news. And he said, oh, I didn't know that you were looking for direct hire jobs. Why didn't you tell me? I used to work like at the higher, like organizing direct hire jobs within this prefecture, and I could have put in the good word for you. And I felt like an idiot. I was like, yeah, we had a great relationship. Why didn't I think to speak to these people? Oh, it was because I had this little ghost of a fear that there was something wrong with that, like that if I mentioned the job to them before having it, sure, be polite and mention to them leaving, but that they would be offended in some way. But no, if you're open and honest with your schools, and maybe somewhere closer to the end of your contract, and if you can get the sense of a good relationship that you have, speak to them in the school, not necessarily like he would, where he said, I would have hooked you up, we could have like gotten you an amazing place here, but to ask them for advice. Because probably if you're only here for a year and you're not a wunderkind and you're not speaking the language perfectly fluently, they're able to finesse the situation for you. They would be able to say, oh, you could go here. Do you want me to call and see if that they have a job available? Like when I mentioned this to this same school, the teacher that I worked closely with as well, she said, oh, well, why don't you try applying at this other place? Even though I already had the job, but I thought 2 job offers is better than 1. So I said, okay, sure. And she phoned ahead to this Board of Education for me. I was blown away. Basically, the point that I'm making here is that at some point in time, if you have a good relationship, you want to stay in the country beyond the first year, speaking to your schools, if only to gather information, can be really, really, really useful for you. Now, this video was supposed to be, and is about, if working for Interac is good. So, we'll just make it very clear that if you were here for a year, yes. If you were extending your stay beyond a year, no. find something better to do, and do it through the ways that I've now suggested in this video. And I think you'll have a lot of success, and you'll get to see kind of the fruits of the relationships that you've taken the time to develop in a positive way, working for you for your future beyond where you first started. All right, cool. I hope you found this video useful. If you, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, maybe check out my Let's Play channel. Can I do this? Yeah, that'll work. That'll fit. Check out the Let's Play channel. I do a podcast on the Let's Play channel with his name's Platty. He does like a lot of Counter-Strike, and we were doing a podcast, but me moving into the new place meant that it was a no-go for a little while. I had to do so much messing around here, but now that I kind of have the rhythm back, we're doing that again. So check that out. Check out the podcast. It'll be up sometime this week, but the heavy rain will now, I think tonight I'll be able to put up a few more clips. I appreciate everybody checking out the video. If you have any questions, email me. You guys are awesome. So thanks for checking this video out, and I'll be getting out much more. You know that I will. You know that you're awesome. Catch you in the next one. Peace.